Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Welcome to my backyard and the spring 2017 tour. I'll give you a grand tour of what's going on in the backyard. In addition to the many types of plants that are growing here that range from practical to just ornamental, I also employ different ways to go about growing them. From one end, a very targeted management style growing method, to organic, to back to Eden, to more of a holistic leadership style called permaculture. And I'll be talking a little bit about the different styles and the different ways plants can be grown and enjoyed, as well as showing you what's going on right now, what's planned, and some of the goals that we have for this year. So if you have a few moments, why don't you join me along on this tour, and I'll show you what's growing on. Part one, we'll start with this part of our backyard and talk about the plants here. Strapped along with me is my 1.5-month-old son, and if he has anything to add, you'll be hearing him. I hope you understand baby. This is our little succulent growing area outside our bedroom. This is an additional space for succulents that we're developing. Later on in the grand tour, in a different part, we'll show you some of the succulents that we have growing, or you can also check out the succulent tour video that was made late last year. On the other side of this gate here is our permaculture / resort garden, where we play around with permaculture exclusively out there. So if you like to check out the videos, there's a series on that. Up here is where we have our other succulents and cacti growing. So we have some barrel cactus, we have some agave, we have prickly pear that's out there, a different type of agave. I think that's an aloe actually. I don't know the variety that was gifted to us. And some other flowering cacti as well. We see some flowers happening up there. Let me see if I can zoom in for you. So there's some flowers that are forming there, along with that one right there. There's some pink that you can see at the tip there. And one of my favorite types of cactus is this kind. I think it's pronounced Euphorbia. I like it because it has spikes and then little leaves on the plant as well. Moving down, we have this growing area where we did galangal last year. We left the rhizomes, and hopefully they'll pop out soon. These are pylons, wooden pylons that where the material is harvested from our ficus tree, and it's used to separate the growing area from the front area where we have as a compost bed. So what happens is we would compost our kitchen scraps. Once it becomes compost, we can either then harvest it and throw it on top behind there for the plants, or we can use it elsewhere. Also, the pylons help with drainage, so for plants that require a lot of drainage, the space between the pylons is where the water can come out. We have a nasturtium that's growing there. It hasn't flowered yet, so we don't know what kind it is. Late last year, I believe, or it was earlier this year, I sowed a bunch of different types of nasturtium. These are potato plants, and they're grown from market potatoes that had eyed up. And one of the things you'll hear me say often when you see potato plants is that I like to grow them wherever I have space, and use a very minimal effort and resource in growing them. And so any kind of potato we harvest, whether they're big or small, they end up being essentially free potatoes. They're, they've been hilled up, and I won't get into potatoes too much in the interest of time. We have some sage here, and they're starting to bud up and flower. And then next to it is our custard apple that we planted into the ground together. It was grown from seed, and if my memory is correct, this is a 3-year-old plant. I think we transplanted it at year 2. We have additional nasturtium plants here, and this red one is really fantastic. The color is difficult to capture on camera, so if you like really rich, bright red flowers, I recommend that you grow this one for yourself. I believe this is the mahogany nasturtium. We also sowed seeds for the crown rose jewel, but from the illustration, this mahogany one is deep red, and I believe that's that one. This is a peach one that the flower's starting to form, so we'll get to enjoy that in a couple days. Nasturtium, the leaves in itself are really pretty. They remind me of water lotus, so for them to flower in addition, that's an added bonus. Okay, we'll move along this way. We have plants in containers, and container gardening is another style. It's great for people who are busy or people who do not have a lot of space to grow their plants, and I continue to use containers here in the backyard. We have some lemongrass back there. This is a volunteer pomegranate. Here we have our sunshine blue blueberry that we planted into the ground. We kept it in a container the last 3 or 4 years. Blueberries are susceptible to drainage issues, so they're best grown in containers, but I thought I'd plant it in the ground and kind of hope for the best. We did a lot of work to make sure the water, the soil's just right for it. There are some flowers here, and then the blueberries are starting to form. They look like end caps here, but these are blueberries. So at some point when the blueberries start to look like blueberries, we're going to have to net the plant up to protect the blueberries from the birds. Otherwise the birds get to enjoy it, and we just get to look at barely ripe blueberries. Next to the blueberry is a manzanita. I like manzanitas because they have really nice structure to them, and the bark, after the initial piece sheds away, it's really shiny and a really nice mahogany color. This is a plant that people use in floral arrangements as well. I believe this is the Howard McMinn, if not the Pacific Mist. Between the two of those, this is the one that is going to grow 10 feet tall and 10 feet wide. So at some point I'm going to have to put it in the ground. I think I'm going to put it outside in the front. In the back is a kale. I believe this is the Vates kale. This is a hybrid variety, and you can find it its seed by the seed company Fairy Morse. It's one that produces well, so if you need a stable crop of kale, this is one I would recommend. And here in Southern California, it's a perennial. This is probably I can't remember, it's either 3 or 4 years old. I think it's going on 4 years old now. This is the original kale plant. It made this side shoot here, and then I supported it with this fork stick here. Just learning about this kale plants some more. They naturally lean over, fall to the ground, and make new plants. So they're kind of like tomatoes. If you leave them alone, they'll fall over and become new plants. This hasn't seeded yet, so even if it seeds, I don't think we can plant its seeds and get this plant back because it's a hybrid. We have in the back some blackberries. There are a couple of varieties. I don't know the name of the varieties. These were planted, this one was planted a few years back, and then my brother gave me his other blackberry plant, and this was planted last year. These are that one is thornless, and then this one has thorns. I find that I like the thorn variety of blackberries better. I don't know, maybe the thornless is man's work to engineer it out, but I find that the thorns actually protect the plant from scale. So while it's nice to have a plant that doesn't attack you, it's also good to have a plant that can defend itself. So between the two, I would pick a thorned variety of blackberry. That goes for any plant, like raspberry. Down here, moving this way, is a round Spanish black radish. I planted this for the first time, and I'm enjoying this radish. It grows well here in Southern California, and it produces a good amount of radish. Let me harvest one for you so I can show you, for folks who haven't seen this one before. Anything that's not exposed to the sun will have a really dark pigment, and almost this is where it gets its name. It's a spicy radish. It's a little bit elastic in texture, and what I like to do with this is I like to boil it in broth and have it. I think this is going to be a good pickling radish, so if you like kimchi, this is a good radish to grow, especially in Southern California in our warm weather. And I wonder if we can grow this through summer. So it's an heirloom variety. You can save the seed and get it back. Here we did the other day our corn. We planted some corn. This is a raised bed that was created recently, and I'm soil building. So I'm basically just letting it do its thing. If I had extra time, then I would amend it and get that going as far as having some place to grow plants. But for the time being, I'm going to grow some beans to help with nitrogen fixing. These are a couple of seed-grown papayas. I think they're 4 or 5 years old now. They're starting to blossom, but I think we're not going to get any papayas from these two plants. So at some point, we're going to have to ask it to give up its space. Back there is a trellis that we weave together from sticks, and a lot of the building material comes from our slope that has all the vegetation that's up there. So we built our raised planter here, and we have strawberries in one of them. We're trying to establish a perpetual strawberry patch. We also grow green onions as a companion plant. Green onion is a good companion plant, as it kind of it's good to they thwart bugs, so they help get rid of some of the bugs. And then this patch here was some purple potatoes that we pulled out of the ground, so now we can plant something. The plan is to plant okra along there. We have some French breakfast radishes that we're letting go to seed, but I think if it doesn't seed in time, we're gonna have to remove it so we can use this bed. We have some heirloom broccoli. Broccoli is something that I want to grow, but oftentimes we get back these little tiny heads, nothing that we can use. And this one already bolted. In a future video on this grand tour, we'll see a couple of broccoli plants that look hopeful. These are heirloom varieties. I think it's Discio, I think it's the pronunciation. It's looking like heirloom varieties aren't going to work well in our desert climate, where the weather is too warm, so we're going to have to turn to heirloom varieties if we're going to get broccoli. So maybe at the end of the year, we'll try some heirloom varieties, or at least ask around to see which varieties work in the desert climate. Here in the backyard garden, we use many gardening styles. In this particular space, we have a couple of gardening styles that we're employing. Down below in front, in the open patch, are corn that have been sowed, and we're using a management style to grow that. The corn have been sowed in nice neat rows and evenly spaced. With corn, it's a crop that does better under management style gardening. In the back, we have the other end of the spectrum, which is permaculture, where we use material that we gather from our yard, and we've created this raised planter for growing plants that would have otherwise been blocked out by plants that grow in front of it. So one of the challenges of growing in the urban setting is getting light for all the plants that grow. In the back, we've allowed the plants to be raised. It's kind of like when you take a class picture and you get on a bench, and that way the people in the back don't get blocked off by the people in front. That's kind of how this is being set up. The other thing about this the usage of the wood is that it creates a comforting environment for lizards. We're trying to welcome lizards, and with their presence, they're going to help us with pest control. So we've seen a lot of lizards run around. Here is a King Richard leek. This was grown from a leek offshoot. It's really interesting. I've never noticed that leeks would make offshoots. So we got an offshoot and we planted it down, and this is what we got back. In the back here, we have some daikon radish that are flowering, and we're gonna save the seeds from this daikon. Down below is some goji berry. That's a goji berry plant. And then just behind it is a heirloom rose. This was already here when we moved to this property. Actually, the creeping fig was this was an entire wall of creeping fig. It was just, and I cleared it all the way back to the retaining wall, and doing so, the rose had been dormant underneath all that in the ground for years. I don't know how many years, but now with light, it just came out. So very interesting to find that. It was a nice surprise. I hope you can see next to the rose is a passion fruit. And I hope that the passion fruit will use the creeping fig as an anchor and grow and cover up some of the creeping fig that's on this wall. So it will be nice that if we can get some passion fruit. And then we'll come back this way and look at our reed avocado, our young reed avocado tree. Apologies for the lighting. And down in front we have some, this is an area for our golden bantam corn. And you can see that there's shadow here already. It's an illustration of our challenges of growing in the urban area. Maybe we need to go and prune back some of this fig.
Papa.
Yes, Owen?
Outside you.
You're outside? Okay. That's our compost bin. And then here are more plants in containers. Let's see, some more interesting ones is this Palo Verde. It's a desert tree. It's got really nice green bark. And we grew this from seed. This is year number 2. We have some forsythia. It's taking a long time to grow. This is what I call wild forsythia. Forsythia is a plant that's been cultivated and hybridized, and there's so many cool forms and flowers that have resulted, and they all came from this wild one. We have some elephant ear, and this is a black elephant ear. The leaves start out green and then they turn black. It's in this pot as I'm nursing it. And the other thing about pots is they're a great way to nurse plants back to health if they are sick. So, yeah, the black plants, that's something that I'm drawn to. So I'm drawn to plants that are variegated and plants that are really dark in pigmentation, that they almost look black. So speaking of variegated, this is a trumpet flower plant here, and it's got nice variegated leaves, and the seed pods are also variegated. So it's a nice ornamental plant that is enjoyable, and the plan is for it to grow up this post here. And this post used to be used to dry laundry, because on the other end of the post is a laundry line that retracts. So some of the legacy items of Americana. That's going to be it for this side of the garden. Next we'll go down this way and look at some of the plants that are over there. Thanks for coming out with me. I hope you join me in the next part. Hello everyone, Brian here. I've got my little one on me, so if you hear some baby sounds, that's him. Round Spanish black radishes, and then we hear some lizards running away. Okay, and then, well, let me break away because Grant's getting a little bit antsy with the way I'm holding him. Okay, so Grand Tour Part 1. If you hear baby sounds, that's my 1.5-month-old. He's strapped on with us, and he's going to come along on the tour. Over here, this is our newer Take 3. Now we have a different baby system where he's inside, protected from the sun, so he should be a little bit more happy. Take number 4. Camera phone ran out of memory, so we're going to use a regular camera now.